microphones. How about now? Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Check, check, check. It's saying that it's not displaying on my microphone, so I may have to unplug the microphone in this night. You can hear me? Yes, because the display is not showing me that the microphone. It's saying that the microphone is connected, but the equalizer is not showing it moving back and forth. So one more time, can you hear me? Check 1, check 2, check 3. Can you hear me? Okay, finally. All right, let's get started on this because I'm already a little bit disappointed because I couldn't even play my intro. Like, let me show you what happens when I put my intro up. Let me take this down. When I put the intro up, it's just blank. Like, it's not playing any music, it's not showing the images, it's just blank for no reason at all. Hey, Fomiki Latte, welcome to the show. But like I said, let me get straight into this. This is episode 8, by the way, and we're going to start off with some retro news. You know, does this way look better, or does this way look better? Hey, Kay, welcome to the show. I'll ask you guys again. Does this orientation where it's 2 boxes look better, or does it look better or slightly overlapped? So it says, looks like you need to update your Mac, or you can use my. No, it's not the Mac. It's the actual StreamYard platform that's acting a fool. And also, it took some features away from me. Features that I was using 2 weeks ago now says I have to upgrade my plan to use. So that's really irritating my life. It's like what is that I used to use? Adobe all over again. Remember when Adobe, you could buy the Adobe program, you got the disc, you load it to your computer, you got to use it. Now you have to rent it monthly. This is how it feels right now to me with StreamYard, where certain things that I had been using fine, now you have to upgrade to use. You can't use them on the free version anymore, and it's really irritating. Tony says 2 boxes because they're the same size. Okay. Yeah. So I'll go that way. All right, so let's get into our first story here. It comes courtesy of MovieWeb. It's written by Federico Forzan, and the headline reads, "This scary 80s hidden gem is a perfect PG-13 gateway horror movie, and it's streaming for free." Those of us who grew up in the 80s participated in a weekly ritual that was as secret as Sunday Mass. Every Friday, we headed out to the video rentals, and regardless of the new arrivals, those who were more into horror would always pick the same movie. That's not true. Okay, let me correct you right there. People that were into horror did not always pick the same movies. As a matter of fact, I feel like we picked a lot of different movies because the video store offered a huge variety of horror that we had never seen before. We might have had some videos on that we owned that we watched over and over again. But when you go to rent something, we were not going to pay to rent the same thing over and over again in most cases. And the real ones know if you had 2 VCRs, what you did was you rent the VHS cassette. This is old school bootlegging. You get 2 VCRs, you rent the VHS, and you put one VCR on play and the other one on record. Then you have that copy for the rest for however long the tape lasts. Okay, now where was I? Yeah, it says regardless of the new arrivals, those who were more into horror would always pick the same movies. The Friday the 13th, the Nightmare on Elm Street, and Halloween's were among the favorites, but there were also those that didn't always grab attention of avid horror fans. For those who came of age among VHS shells, they are not the horrible and obscure movies critics said they were. They are the perfect introductions to a whole new world that harbors ghouls that will never abandon those who fall in love with them. Released in 1987, Tibor Takak's fantasy horror film The Gate is a great example of a film that would captivate young viewers since they laid their eyes on the box cover. The movie, starring a very young Stephen Dorff in his debut, was a horror adventure told from the perspective of children. An Amblin-esque horror movie in the times of the Goonies, Explorers, and Stand By Me. And you can see this is little Stephen Dorff right here. Same dude that played the evil vampire in Blade. What was that vampire's name? For some reason, it's escaping me. Tony Man says, same thing with music cassettes. I rarely bought a tape. I just dubbed them. And I will scroll down so you can get another little image here. What is The Gate about? The Gate is the story of Glenn and Terry, two friends who one day discover a huge hole that has been concealed by a tree recently cut down in Glenn's backyard. The boys grab a very mysterious rock from the hole and they start playing around with it, while Al, Glenn's older sister, throws a party with her friends. Their parents have left for the weekend, and it doesn't take long for Glenn to become the subject of a levitation prank that doesn't go well. The party ends quickly after that. Terry, a fan of heavy metal, and especially of bands that play around with things that are not of this world, brings a record to Glenn's house the next day. Thank you, Key. Deacon Frost. I knew somebody would know it. I don't know why my mind was blanking on it. Tony Man says, Dorff looked like my cousin when we were younger. I can picture Corey looking like that. Let's see here. He associates an image from the record with the hole in Glenn's home and becomes convinced that the chants that are in one of the songs could help them seal what he believes to be a portal to another dimension. After our write, the boys believe they may have done their job in preventing something from escaping. But when the creepy stuff starts happening again, they realize that it isn't quite over. The only way to close the gate is through sacrifice, and the siblings are the perfect match. Hey, Marty's in the house. He says, the Gates director also directed my favorite cult horror, I, Madman, when horror characters from novels come to life after being put into a mystical chest. That's on my watch list, I, Madman. Tony says, was that the movie one of those creatures gets stepped on? Yes. And Marty says, hello to everyone. Mickey Light says, levitation prank, light as a feather, stiff as a board. It was something like that. The Gate captures the Amblin spirit. What stands out immediately about The Gate is that the story is told from the perspective of its young characters. There are adults, but they are very secondary to Glenn's journey, which flows into a story about sibling love, a theme that isn't often explored in genre films. The dialogue could have been tweaked, and some characters you care for more than others, but The Gate does a fine job at capturing the Amblin essence that felt distant from the horror genre in the 1980s. Spielberg's touch was visible at the time in specific productions, and though The Gate is anything but a slick big studio adventure, it does well in capitalizing on the popular style of films like The Goonies. The Gate is also famous for its use of practical effects, a trademark of 1980s horror. The visual effects supervisor was Randall William Cook, a specialist who would become a 3-time Academy Award winner for his work in the Lord of the Rings franchise. To this day, the effects created with stop motion animation and forced perspective look extraordinary. The Gate is one of those films pivoted by a single sequence. The demons are creepy, but then so is the ghoulish man trapped in the wall. the massive creature in the end, and evil Terry with a Barbie stuck in his eye. It's a great example of well-designed thrills that don't feel excessive or cheesy. This brilliance was common in teen horror films from the 80s that didn't go beyond the boundaries of what was acceptable in PG-13 spectrum. The Gate isn't violent, making it a great choice for parents who want to introduce their little ones to horror. Gateway horror is, well, actually, let me show you the little poster because it's kind of cool. This is a cool poster for the Gate with the little creatures. I don't think he ever wore sandals though. I don't know, the person pictured here in the poster is not Stephen Dorff, and he had sneakers on, not sandals. But other than that, the poster is kind of cool. Gateway horror is known to limit itself to short, scary sequences and friendly tones of horror, and The Gate has plenty of those. However, it also digs deep into its subject of heavy metal and satanic panic tropes. The particular thing about it is that in The Gate, all the irrational fears associated with satanic panic are not groundless. They are real. The Gate is available to stream on Tubi, which Tubi is the gift that keeps on giving. It says here that it's also available on Amazon, YouTube, because YouTube has, I guess, like rentals, but it's free on Tubi, and it's also available on Canopy. If you're not familiar with Canopy, Canopy is a library app. So if you do have a library card, you can log into Canopy, and they have a movie database there that you can watch. I think that's pretty cool. Tonyman says, Bye Bye Man was definitely gateway horror. Yes. Bye Bye Man is definitely something, like if I had little kids that wanted to watch horror, I would show them to Bye Bye Man. All right, let's get into our next story. This is more of a heads up than anything, and it comes courtesy of Fox Business, written by Aislinn Murphy. And headline reads, Amazon to shut down streaming app, moving content to Prime Video platform. Is this the only image here? Yeah, that's the only image here, so I'll just leave it up there. Well, now it's not reloading, so it's just a blank screen. Well, you know what they say about Mercury in retrograde, technical difficulties? Marty says, I always got the vibe of folks horror from The Gate. I was jealous because it would have made a way better Leprechaun movie than Leprechaun. Yep. Even though I have a special place in my heart for Leprechaun the movie because it is the right type of silliness for me. Okay, so it says here, Amazon's ad-supported Freevee app will shut down soon, with its content slated to move on to the company's Prime Video platform. Freevee will be accessible until August 2025, Freevee said in a message displayed within its free streaming service app. The ad-supported service currently hosts a plethora of movies, television shows, and live 24/7 entertainment channels, as well as Freevee originals like Jury Duty and Bosch Legacy. The message told users to continue watching your favorite Freevee originals and our library of hit movies, shows, and live TV on Prime Video for free. No subscription needed. Okay, so there still will be free content, but it will be on Prime Video. Amazon has operated the free streaming service app since 2019. Prime Video will become the new exclusive home for Freevee TV shows, movies, and live TV. Once August rolls around, the Freevee message indicated. Amazon had previously indicated late last year that it would phase out Freevee branding. And they did post on social media. Looks like it was on X. It says here, at Prime Video is the new exclusive home for Freevee TV shows, movies, and live TV. Still free, still entertaining. Thank you for being part of our community. Tonyman says, nah, we decided to show little kids Poltergeist and they laughed at it. Dead silence on the other hand. Yes, yes, yes. I just watched a group of Gen Zs watch Halloween for the first time, and they thought it was the funniest movie they'd ever seen. They just laughed and laughed. I it's I that's not that wasn't my reaction to seeing the original Halloween, but it is what it is. Tom Baker says Poltergeist was great. Yes, it was. But you know what? Now I can kind of understand. Um, when I just said that the Gen Zs were laughing at Halloween, the original one from 1978, it's them watching Halloween would probably be like one of us watching like Day of the Triffids or the original The Thing from Outer Space. It was Another World. Is it The Thing from Another World? Either way, those 1950s drive-in movies that we think are hilarious, maybe our parents didn't think they were hilarious and they were actually kind of scary to them. I don't know. Tom Baker said, laughed at Halloween. Yes, they got a kick out of Michael Myers driving around in that station wagon. And Tom Baker says, we're in trouble. But like I said, Tom, the previous generation to us, what was scary to them wasn't scary to us. Like when we look back, like when, perfect example, Psycho. Psycho is a brilliant film. I really respect it. I love it, but it was never scary to me. However, to their generation, it might have been one of the scariest films they ever saw when it came out. Hey, Doc Kaiju, welcome to the stream. In case you didn't hear the beginning of this last story, Freevee is going to be gone in August. However, they are moving, it's owned by Amazon, and all of its content will be moved over to Amazon Prime. You'll still be able to watch it for free, but it'll be on Amazon Prime. Tony Man says, I watched Halloween and just remember getting butterflies in my stomach when he chased Laurie Strode. But that's about it. It scared me when I was a kid. I mean, when I first saw it, I had to be about 10 years old, I would think. Yeah. So to me, it was really, I think the thing that scared me even more than the action was the music. The music from Halloween used to scare me when I was a kid. Same thing with the music from The Exorcist. Like there's certain soundtracks and scores that were really creepy to me. All right, let's move on. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to stop the screen right quick and represent because there might be a video in this one. So here we go. Make sure that that's the right one. Yes. And you know what? I forgot to put my banner up. You know, I had created some banners today. There's one. So at least that works. Tom Baker says it was scary from the beginning about Halloween. And Doc Hydra says, I found the Halloween film scary, but Jason scared me more. Mm-hmm. And Tom Baker says, even the titles were scary. Well, the mood. Mm-hmm. So we have something from Bloody Disgusting here. It's written by Paul Lay. And it's titled 28 Months After. Yes, there's a Mockbuster for 28 days later and 28 years later. Before I knew there was a word for them, I was watching a lot of Mockbusters. Snakes on a Train, Paranormal Entity, and Transmorphers are just a few of the classics I took in as a young and credulous cinephile. What's funny about Mockbusters is my father was the perfect candidate for Mockbusters because he would always get confused about the movies. Even when I was a child and I wanted a Transformer and he bought me a GoBot and he was like, what do you mean? It's the same thing. And I'm like, no, it's not. GoBots are not the same thing as Transformers. I mean, they're okay, but they're not Transformers. That's what Mockbusters are for. They're for people like my dad who are not going to notice that there is a difference. Tony said, did you see the horror site I sent you? I didn't click on it yet. I'll probably show that on Friday. Marty says, Jesus, someone's going to get their arse sued. They even took the 28th logo. Yes, they did. Okay, so where was I? Nowadays, I'm fully aware of what I'm getting into if I turn on the likes of Pet Graveyard or Ape versus Mecha Ape. So I fancied myself prepared for 28 months after a new movie that has somehow been mistaken for another 28 Days Later sequel. Within seconds of viewing, though, it should be evident that this isn't related to anything from the 28 universe, much less on the same level as other mockbusters. I'd even go so far as to say this movie made me long for the asylum. Tonyman says my favorite mockbusters were the Not series if you have a dirty mind. And Doc Kaiju says Zombies on a Plane was really good. Okay, let's see here. Funny thing, well, one of many funny things about 28 months later is that it's not a new release. It hitches a ride on the 28 years later publicity train for sure. But this movie dates as far back as 2012, and Google shows it was added to the streaming service Tubi back in 2023. There's also an alternative title to consider. Before changing names, the movie was originally called Aftermath. You know what? I remember Aftermath from 2012. I think I remember the advertisements for it. Tonyman says, Marty, you haven't seen When a Stranger Calls Your House? And Dot Kaiju says, The Asylum, get it? Tom Baker asks, what is a mockbuster? A mockbuster is a movie that is produced specifically to cash in on the popularity of another new movie that has just come out. They named some in here, but I'll tell you what movies they were trying to gain publicity off of. The first movie they named was Snakes on a Train. That's the mockbuster for Snakes on a Plane. Paranormal Entity is the mockbuster movie for Paranormal Activity. Transmorphers came out right when Transformers came out. So they make these movies that aren't the same exactly as the movie that they're trying to compete with, but they go as far as they can without getting sued. I think that's what they typically try to go as far as they can in copying the movie without getting sued. Okay. Marty says, why watch Jurassic Park when you can just watch the classic Jurassic Predators Death Park? Yep, I just did. I explained it. And Marty says, they even copy the covers to trick the less cinema savvy. Yes, they do. Tom Baker says, like an alternate universe? No, just a copycat. Like, you know what it's like? Do you, where you're at, Tom Baker, do they have generic, like generic companies that make food? Like over here, you would have like we have Rice Krispies, which is like the Kellogg's, and then you would have the generic that's called Crispy Rice, and it all also be the same cereal, but the box looks different and it's generic. It's kind of like that. It's generic movies. Tony says Planet Dune, The Day the Earth Stopped, and Atlantic. Yes, Atlantic Rim was the mockbuster for Pacific Rim. The Day the Earth Stopped is the mockbuster for The Day the Earth Stood Still. Planet Dune is probably the mockbuster for Dune. Man, do you have these committed to memory, Tony, man? Cocaine Shark, of course, is the mockbuster for Cocaine Bear. And Tom Baker says, oh, yes. And Marty says, or Alien versus Hunter. Yes, that was one that was the mockbuster for Alien versus Predator with the greatest American hero, William Catt. Doc Kaiju says it's better, much better. Which is better, Doc Kaiju? Okay, let me see here. Tony Man says, nope, I'm on the asylum site. Okay, because I was about to say it sounded like you had to memorize. Okay, all right. So where was I? Funny thing. One of many funny things about 28 months later is that it's not a new release. It hitches a ride on the 28 years later publicity train, for sure. But this movie dates back as far as 2012, and Google shows it was added to the streaming service Tubi back in 2023. There's also an alternative title to consider. Before changing names, the movie was originally called Aftermath. At the very least, the rebranding helps avoid any confusion with other aftermaths. This includes a 2014 post apocalyptic movie that actually came up third in my results when I searched for 28 Months After on Tubi. Okay, so that might be the aftermath I'm thinking of. I didn't realize that there was several aftermath movies. Here's a side by side of the posters while I'm reading this. Not helping the movie escape accusations of false sequelizing and shameless opportunism. Oh, speaking of false sequelizing, the first to do these mockbusters probably were the Italians, because Zombie 2 was promoted as a sequel to Night of the Living Dead, even though it had nothing to do with Night of the Living Dead. They did other things like it, like Cruel Jaws. Cruel Jaws was promoted as Jaws 5. So this is not the first time this has happened. Tony says they have Avengers Grimm and Avengers Grimm Time Wars. OMG. Kaiju says it's an Ashley Show skit about a movie rental store that sells only mockbusters. Oh, that's funny. Marty says, has anyone seen Cracula? It's dumb as fuck. A vampire drinks from addicts and gets addicted to cocaine as well as blood. No, but I'm gonna write that one down. I want to watch Cracula. It's right up. It's up my alley. Let me write this down. Cracula. Okay, that's on my watch list. Kaiju says there are 2 movies called Troll 3, but neither really are. I believe it. Okay. That choice of a biohazard symbol positioned behind the title is as obvious as it is brazen. Meanwhile, the image of a soldier masked up and geared up is nothing more than an enhanced stock image that was also used on the poster for the similarly themed 2013 movie Ridge War Z. As someone who's always been tickled by different movies using the same stock photo for their posters, look up Absentia, Roadkill, and the Avenger tapes, and you'll know what I'm referring to. This revelation is amusing. For others, though, they're less pleased to discover that the heavily armed character in 28 Months After poster is nowhere to be found in the actual movie. Marty says the Italian sequel to Alien 2. Tom Baker says it's like a fake Elvis in Las Vegas. Yes, that's a good comparison. Tonyman says they have Alien Rubicon on the site. I started to watch it until I saw the Asylum logo. 28 months later has already led to a handful of what I ordered versus what I got type of reviews. In all likelihood, though, the mock busting on display here is the work of the distributor, not the creators. I caught myself chuckling at the line, I used you. That's the fact of matter. And now I'm done with you. That said, the movie definitely delivers its on-paper plot. Quote, in the wake of an apocalypse, a small band of survivors struggles to start over while fighting off violent hordes of both the living and the dead. That's more or less what happens. So the real problem with this movie is the quality, or rather its lack thereof. In mere seconds of hitting play, you should know what lies ahead. There is nothing resembling the deliberate lo-fi aesthetic of Danny Boyle's 20 Days Later here. 28 Months After looks cheap because it is cheap. In the rare case you've never seen something like this before, this is one of the many do-it-yourselfers filmed in people's backyards, offices, and any public spaces they could find access to and afford. All the scenes, including ones where characters are simply standing around and talking, are always accompanied by a generally foreboding and possibly lifted music score. The editing is disjointed at worst and awkward at best. In all frankness, there's nothing too positive to say about the filmmaking other than the fact they turned the camera on and got every actor in the shot. Even that last part could be arguable at certain points in the movie. Strange Monkey is in the house. Hi, Strange Monkey. Welcome to the stream. So yeah, this shoestring mockbuster, if you call it that, is going to fool some folks. Plus, with 28 years later now out in the out in the wild. Maybe I need to use reading glasses. JJ's here. Hey, JJ, how are you? Tony Man says, I bet 28 months after will be good for a laugh. That 28 years later sucked balls. Oh yeah, I just recorded my 28 years later review last night. As soon as I finish editing that, I will get it out to you. I'm hoping for this Sunday coming to have that out. Okay. Where's it? So yeah, this shoestring mockbuster, if you can call it that, is going to fool some folks. Plus, with 20 years later now out in the wild, a person is bound to think, hey, this is already streaming, and then click on 28 months after before realizing their mistake. Talk about hard lessons in life. Anyhow, unless you're a diehard enthusiast of homemade horror movies, especially ones that elicit memories of the SOV era, 28 months after is difficult to recommend, and chances are you'll be zombie dashing for that stop button. However, if you're anything like me, you'll throw caution to the wind and watch anyways. So do as you wish, but also remember you were warned. Shout out to Paul Lay for taking one for the team and writing this up for us. I appreciate that. Strange Monkey Reviews says, I came in as you were reading the info. This sounds like an Asylum ripoff. Yes, it is very much like an Asylum. It's a Mockbuster. It's a different production company, but it's very much the same as Asylum. Marty says, there's a trailer for Cracula. You've been warned. People are ready to fool. Let me see if I can I copy this out of the, it doesn't let me copy the trailer out of your, oh, no, what? Here's what I'll do. I'll screenshot that from Marty and then I'll see if I can get it. There. Tom Baker says, people are ready to fool. And they're saying, what's up? And Tom says, maybe they should make Pirates of the Caribbean the Revenge. Mm-hmm. There is a trailer here for Aftermath. Let's check it out. Well, Aftermath, aka was it 28? I forgot what this movie was called that fast. 28 months after. 28 months after. You know who to blame. This is who you blame. Fresh Slate Pictures. That's who's to blame for this, not Asylum. Fresh Slate Pictures.
What we've created is a solution.
A wise man once said, it's not the strongest of a species that survive, or the most intelligent.
There's another side of you begging to get out that you probably didn't even know existed.
It's the most adaptable that make it.
Sometimes humanity just needs to be thinned out a bit. This time an infection was created to be transferred through a bite, like venom.
Somebody didn't factor zombie apocalypse into that equation.
The practical effects look pretty good in this. Like the acting is, the line reading is terrible, but the practical effects look pretty good. Tony Man says, blame, I'm sending them a fan email. Okay, you go ahead and do that. All right, let me see what else we got up here. Okay, I have a story here that is up for debate. This should encourage a pretty good discussion. This is also coming to us on Bloody Disgusting. Doc Kaiju says, my stepfather once rented Black Dahlia instead of the Black Dahlia by mistake. My brother and I were trying to tell him it has to be a Mockbuster because the Black Dahlia was still in theaters. Yep. He was adamant, and then he shut it off 10 minutes in. That sounds exactly like something my father would do. Tom says, check out Alien Rubicon. All right, let me screenshot that too because I'm not going to remember. Let's screenshot that comment. There we go. And then Doc says, I didn't know there was a Mockbuster called Alien 2. I should put that on in a watch party and say I'm putting on the second Alien film and then see what they say while it's playing. That would be funny. Okay, so this list is probably going to be debatable. It comes courtesy of Bloody Disgusting, and it's written by Megan Navarro. It is Bloody Disgusting's 10 best horror movies released in the first half of 2025. Okay, it says it's that time again. We've reached the halfway point of the year. What a strange year it has been so far, with the box office making it clear that audiences aren't willing to venture out for anything and everything these days. With wallets tightening, it's event films that are proving to be the biggest draw. The zeitgeist releases that get everyone talking. For 2025 so far, that means that only a few horror movies have reached massive runway box office success. The Final Destination franchise sprung back to life with the Final Destination Bloodlines, giving Tony Todd a heartwarming and proper send-off with a touching final appearance and an impressive franchise milestone. It's the first to reach a 200 million. As impressive as its theatrical run has been, Ryan Coogler's vampiric epic Sinners smashed box office records, outpacing Bloodlines and earning horror a historic first A cinema score. Even the seeming misses aren't too terrible considering horror's high margins of nature. Megan 2.0, Wolfman, and Until Dawn, for example, didn't exactly set the box office on fire, but modest budgets and home video streaming returns showcase horror's ability to thrive regardless. While it means that predicting box office success is getting even trickier, horror's dominance continues.
Someone was detected at your grandma's room.
And this summer's only getting warmed up for the horror releases, with some of the year's most anticipated titles on the immediate horizon. I Know What You Did Last Summer, Together, and Weapons are just around the corner, with the Toxic Avenger soon to follow. Beyond that, expect an insanely packed Halloween season ahead. As a refresher and to ensure great movies don't fall through the cracks, here are the 10 best horror movies released in the first half of 2025. All right. Tom Baker says after Alien, they also made Alien copies. Yes, they did. Leviathan was an alien underwater. And then after Leviathan, there was a lot of underwater copies because that same period of like 2 to 3 years, you had Leviathan, you had The Abyss, you had, there was a couple other ones. Sphere. Oh God, there was another one that was like Leviathan, The Abyss, Sphere. It's gonna bug me. I had a list of underwater horror movies. It all came out from like 95 to like 99. There was a bunch of them, but those are the three that I can remember. Was it not Deep Blue Sea? Deep Blue Sea was a little bit later, and it wasn't the same. And it wasn't Deep Impact. It was Deep something. Deep Rising. I think it was Deep Rising. That's the one I think I'm thinking of. So it was Sphere, Leviathan. I just saw another one. See, now I'm forgetting them. I just named 4. Now I can't name them again. But anyways, there was a bunch of them in the late 90s. Doc Kaiser says, Tom Baker, are you in Massachusetts? I worked with a guy by that name once. Deep Star 6. Thank you, Tom Baker. That's another one. Yes. Okay, let's get into these Bloody Disgusting's top 10. Is it a top 10? Yes, top 10. Okay, so they're starting off with Bring Her Back. Danny and Michael Filippo's Danny and Michael Filippo's follow-up feature to Talk to Me is a downer of the highest order. The filmmaking duo's brand of grief is as visceral and brutal as you'd expect, but without any tangible semblance of hope. Sally Hawkins delivers a riveting, powerful performance as Laura, the cunning yet broken-hearted woman desperate to bring back her deceased daughter at any cost. While that involves demonic activity, the true monster here is grief and his shocking ability to erode a once kind soul. Bring Her Back is a more refined effort from the Filipos. But it's also more restrictive and simple. It's impressively bold and shocking in a way the directors continue to push horror boundaries and shatter taboos, especially when it comes to kids, ensuring a nail-biting and grueling experience that'll leave you wincing and squirming in your seat. I have to agree. I quite enjoyed Bring Her Back. I know Tony Man enjoyed Bring Her Back. What do you guys think of Bring Her Back? Enjoyable? Have you seen it? What did you think? Would it make your top 10 of the first half of 2025? That's another one. The Rift. Okay, their next movie, which I need to add to my watch list, is Sister Midnight. Let me write that one down because I had not heard of it and I want to watch it. I need both hands. Sister Midnight. Okay. In truth, writer-director Karan Kandhari's energetic, infectious feature debut leans more into magical realism than horror, but it's such a stylish genre bender with a winsome and comically put-upon protagonist that it feels tailor-made for the adventurous horror cinephile. Radhika Apte stars as Uma, a young woman horrified. You know what? This is one big run-on sentence. These should be. You can use a period. See, this is what I would. Yeah, a little bit less run-on sentence. Anyways, Radhika Apte stars as Uma, a young woman horrified to find herself transformed into a disturbing and ruthless figure after entering into an arranged marriage. What begins as a domestic comedy with Uma begrudgingly navigating her new housewife role slowly unfurls into an unexpected journey involving stop motion, zany night encounters, and vampirism. It's unpredictable and vibrant, with Karan Kandhari embracing the absurd of Uma's plight with a wry wink and endless panache. Doc says one of those underwater horrors existed in the same universe as King Kong and Skull Island, with a reference to Skull Island in it. I can't remember which movie it was. Oh. Okay. Let's go to our next one. Let me know if anyone has seen Sister Midnight. And you guys still haven't said anything about Bring Her Back. Have you guys not seen it yet? It's probably going to be streaming pretty soon if it's not already streaming. But I enjoyed it a lot. It was really good. I actually think maybe it was slightly better than Talk to Me, which is good because it's Talk to Me was their first film. Bring Her Back is their second film, so I definitely saw improvement. But let's talk about The Presence, which I also saw and I enjoyed. Unsane director Steven Soderbergh reunites with Kimi screenwriter David Koepp from Jurassic World Rebirth to give an innovative new spin on the quintessential ghost story. Presence frames its haunting. Oh, I should mention, I think he also shot Presence on a phone. But because I know Unsane was shot on a cell phone. I think Presence was also shot on a cell phone. I could be mistaken though. Presence frames its haunted events entirely from the perspective of its ghosts. But using the camera gaze as the ghost's observing eyes isn't the only trick up Soderbergh and Knopp's sleeves. The presence itself may not be something to fear, but that doesn't mean Presence lacks any intensity or horror. The moody story builds into a thrilling finale that devastates, subverting expectations. around the spectral entity haunting a family of 4. Soderbergh, working as cinematographer under the pseudonym Peter Andrews, wheels the camera in breathtaking ways that infuse the incorporeal character with personality. It's breathtaking in style and form, but it's reveal of the actual threat that haunts. I enjoyed it. I would call it more of a drama with horror elements than a straight horror movie, but I liked it as the drama that it was. The familial, it was kind of a familial drama that had supernatural elements, and I did like the twist. Not really twist, it's more of a reveal than a twist. The reveal at the end, I think, was done really well, and I didn't expect it to be what it was. I like that. I like when you subvert my expectations and you give me something I didn't expect or I couldn't predict. I like that. Have any of you guys seen The Presence? Let me know in the comments what you think. And when I'm asking these things on the live stream, these questions are also for people watching the replay. So if you are watching the replay, please comment. I still interact in the comments after the live stream is done. I mean, for days after. If you were here to post something tomorrow, I'm going to see it and I will respond. Okay, now this is one I have not heard of also. It's called A Desert. Maybe you guys have heard of it. This is, of course, Bloody Disgusting's top 10 so far. Top 10 of 2025 so far. The lists are, they didn't number the list, so I think they're in arbitrary order, Tony Man. Tony Man says, never saw Presence. I thought it may be boring. For you, I don't think so, because you like found footage, and because of the perspective that it's shot in, it feels a little bit like a found footage. Director Joshua Erkman's feature debut presents a captivating and stylized blend of neo-noir and horror via a road trip through the American Southwest. A photographer, Green Room's Kai Lennox, sets out to revive his career by capturing abandoned roadside structures and buildings in desolate stretches of the American Southwest. No, wait. Let me say it again. He sets out to revive his career by capturing abandoned roadside structures and buildings in a desolate... Yeah, you put stretches... Okay, it throws me off how some people write. I'm going to rewrite this sentence so that it's readable. Okay, a photographer sets out to revive his career by capturing abandoned roadside structures and buildings along desolate stretches of the southwestern desert, but instead he finds himself caught in a strange tangled web. Erkman, who co-wrote the screenplay with Bossy Baker, hangs this genre bender on the familiar framework of neo-noir. Themes of isolation, alienation, and paranoia saturate the frame and its characters. The debut filmmaker juxtaposes a landscape abandoned and eroded by time with larger-than-life characters, nearly all of them operating in shades of moral decay or corruption. It makes for a deeply engaging journey, one that continues to signal alarm bells from the moment Alex meets Rennie right through to its bleak final act. That one sounds like I have to be in the mood to watch it, because real life is so bleak. Right now I don't feel like watching a lot of bleak horror. I prefer right now watching fun slasher movies because, like I said, real life is already bleak. So I'm probably not going to put that one on my watch list. What say you all? Tony Man says Bring Her Back would be 3 so far. I still think Ugly Stepsister would be number 1. Tony Man says I have to hear the other 7 to rank them. Okay. The next one here is Heart Eyes, which I was hard on when I first saw it, but when I rewatched it, I kind of enjoyed it better on the rewatch. Director Josh Rubin, Werewolves Within and Scare Me, working from a script by Philip Murphy, who did The Hitman's Wife's Bodyguard, and Christopher Landon, Drop and Freaky, and Michael Kennedy, who did Freaky, gives romance and horror equal weight in the seamless fusion of slasher and rom-com, ensuring that the gore hits just as hard as the sizzling hot chemistry between leads Olivia Holt and Mason Gooding. See, that's the thing I disagree with. I don't think that the leads had any chemistry with each other, I did very much enjoy the gore. I thought the gore was delivered very, very well. But the two leads, they did not have any chemistry to me at all. They almost felt more like brother and sister than anything. I just couldn't see it. Heart Eyes walks the fine line between a 90s slasher with a modern savage edge and a rom-com with rare white-hot. They keep calling this white. Where is the chemistry in the room with us? Because I swear to you, I'm not seeing it. Without ever feeling gimmicky, it's simply a breathlessly entertaining ride that leaves you cheering for love and creative kills in equal measure. It's not the steadfast commitment to intense thrills and suspenseful set pieces that earns easy rooting interest in Heart Eyes, though that certainly helps, but rather its magnetic cast. Yeah, I wasn't super impressed with the cast. I was impressed with the gore. That's just my 2 cents. Tony Man says Heart Eyes is a 4 on your top 10 list so far. The next up is another one I have not gotten a chance to see yet, called Dead Talent Society. Already I like kind of the coloring. There's a lot going on with the lighting. Especially if you look in the foreground as well as the background. I like this type of imagery. Detention director John Su shifts gears from scares to cheers for this endlessly charming horror comedy Dead Talent Society, which feels like a better answer to Beetlejuice than its recent sequel. It follows the timid and recently deceased Rookie, played by
your grandma's room.
Jingle Wang, as she tries to navigate life as a ghost. That means learning how to scare the pants off of people before fading away permanently in an afterlife where ghosts strive to become the spookiest urban legends and famous stars in the underworld. That sounds fun. And competition is fierce. The Rookie teams with tenured diva Catherine, played by Sandrine Pina, to do so, but Catherine has her hands full with her gentle mentee. Hsu, who co-wrote the script with Vincent Tsai, lovingly pokes fun at supernatural tropes without ever losing a sense of heart or horror. It's a comedy where the characters are endearing and the jokes land, but it's also surprisingly bloody and occasionally spooky. The competition is fierce in the afterlife, yielding one of the year's biggest crowd pleasers that sadly slipped under the radar. Run to Netflix and watch this gem ASAP. Let me write that down. Dead Talent Society. It sounds similar to something like What We Do in the Shadows, which I really love. Let me write that one down. Dead Talents Society. Okay, so Tori means I don't really like horror comedy unless it's done correctly and not like Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Yeah, well, the few movies I think horror comedy was done very well to me have been Creepshow, that had some comedic elements. American Werewolf in London, that one really worked. The comedy in that. Fright Night, that the comedy worked in that. Return to the Living Dead. I think a lot of what's in Return to the Living Dead is meant to be taken very tongue-in-cheek. I think that's about it. I'm trying to think of any other horror comedies that I really, really liked. When it came out, when I was a teenager, I wasn't a teenager when it came out, but I saw it on video. I think it came out before I was a teenager, but by the time I saw it, I was a teenager. Evil Dead 2, Dead by Dawn. To me, that was funny. I don't think it is so funny now as an adult, but when I was a teenager, I watched that over and over again. I thought it was hilarious. Dead Alive, I thought was pretty funny. Tom Baker says Dr. Phoebes was the best horror comedy. I have to check out Dr. Phoebes. Tony says Fright Night was a horror comedy. I thought it was straight horror. No, there was definitely some comedic moments in Fright Night. I don't think it was meant to be completely unfunny. I thought Evil's whole character was there to be comedic relief. Tom Baker says the British 1972 movie. put that on my list too. Dr. Phoebes. Phibes. All right, thank you. The next one, this is one I'm going to disagree with because I did not care for 28 Years Later at all, but I will read what they have to say about it. Director Danny Boyle and screenwriter Alex Garland returned to the world they created in 28 Days Later with a polarizing start to a new planned trilogy. Instead of venturing down the expected path, Boyle and Garland introduced a quarantined UK largely forgotten by the outside world, with its survivors having forged new communities and simplified ways of life post-outbreak. The infected are merely part of the equation in newcomer Spike, Alfie, played by Alfie Williams, coming-of-age story that touches on everything from Brexit to the inevitability of death. Boyle plays with form, introducing a sensory assault through rapid cuts, a punishing soundscape, and immersive camera work that employs a variety of techniques, including strapping cameras and iPhones to actors to evoke danger and suspense. It only evoked annoyance for me because I don't like all that shaky cam. Let me see what I'm seeing. Yet it's the surprising third act, pivoting from intense horror to a cathartic, poignant meditation on death, along with an insane hook for the second installment that proves most divisive. That Boyle and Garland are so willing to take drastic risks like this makes 28 Years Later one of the most exciting releases of the year so far. Any movie that inspires passionate debate and analysis like this is ultimately a win for the horror genre. Yeah, I didn't care for that. That's another one that was funny. Shaun of the Dead was a good horror comedy. I agree with that. Stephen, Sidewinder is here. Welcome to stream, Sidewinder. He says Stephen Jeffries alone brought the comedy in Fright Night. Stephen Jeffries alone brought the comedy in Fright Night. Yes, thank you. You know, I was just, when I was editing my Clownathon, I used to confuse Stephen Jeffries with, I forget the gentleman that played Roach and The People Under the Stairs. I don't know why I used to confuse the two of them. They look nothing alike, but when I was a kid, they looked alike to me. Not as much as I confused James Woods and Peter, why I can't remember his last name, RoboCop. The guy who played RoboCop. I don't know why his last name is escaping me, but I used to confuse him with James Woods. I don't now because James Woods I heard he's a complete and total jerk. And Peter Weller, that's his name. Peter Weller is nice. I've heard that he's very cool. Tony Man says they could have did that with GoPros and not iPhones. Yeah, they could have. Yes, Peter Weller. All right, let's see who else they have on their list tonight. This is what Tony Man said, yes, and I agree with this. I really enjoyed The Ugly Stepsister, and I want to rewatch it and review it because I really enjoyed that. Norwegian writer and director Emily Blichfeldt harkens back to the bloody Brothers Grimm origins of Cinderella for her feature debut. Instead of whimsical romance set in the Renaissance, Blichfeldt gets graphic with the medieval torture women endure in their pursuit of happily ever after. In Blichfeldt's version, the little Ash girl is Agnes, played by Thea Sophie Loch Ness. It's funny that her last name is Loch Ness. I wonder if it's like the Loch Ness Monster. It's very interesting. Or maybe she's from that area. Because Loch Ness is I think it's a lake. But the familiar fairy tale is framed from the perspective of stepsister and romantic rival Elvira, played by Leah Myron. It's not just the dedication to the story transformation that impresses, but the way Blichfeldt adds dimension and new layers to these classic characters. The only true villain here is the society that demands impossible standards and casts aside those who don't meet them. The production design is stunning and immersive, creating an almost ethereal backdrop to a grim, gory body horror tale. And the characters are wonderfully nuanced and authentic. It's elegant, stylish, and gnarly, but maybe don't go in with an empty stomach. The film's final bursts of prolonged body horror might make you lose your lunch. I think it should say, please maybe go in with an empty stomach. Because if you go in with a full stomach, you might toss your cookies. But yes, it was very gory at the end and in a way that is difficult to watch. Tom Baker says, and confusing Richard Lynch with Rutger Hauer. Yes, I do that too. I confuse Richard Lynch and Rutger Hauer all the time. There was another one that I would confuse. It was Ernie Hudson and the gentleman that was in, he was in They Live, and he was also in The Thing. What's his name? Yeah, somebody in the comments will put it up there. But I confuse those. I used to confuse those two as well. Now this one, Dangerous Animals, I did not see, but Tony Man saw it and he said he didn't care for it. Let me see what they have to say about Dangerous Animals. In an increasingly overcrowded sea of shark horror movies, leave it to the director of The Loved Ones and The Devil's Candy, Sean Byrne, to give the well-trodden subgenre a welcome shakeup with a potentially game-changing entry. Here, cinema's favorite ocean predators aren't the villains, but merely the modus operandi of one sadistic and charismatic serial killer. Jai Courtney delivers an electric, career-defining performance as Captain Tucker, a disarming and gregarious behemoth of a man who lives in and operates a shark diving tour boat. For Tucker, it's less about a source of income and more about luring prey for his true passion, feeding his tortured prey to the sharks he attracts with buckets of chum. The propulsive blend of serial killer thrills and aquatic terror makes for a high-stakes ride that leaves you breathless. This is the type of filmmaker who makes his characters earn their survival, if they can, by plunging them into a grim gauntlet of pain and suffering. The ones who make it come away battered and scarred, but never without hope. Tonyman says, oh, LOL, please, that wasn't that bad. This writer uses hyperbole. Dangerous Animals sucked ass. I stand by that. Oh, okay. Okay, Tonyman. Sidewinder, thank you. Keith David, that's the name I'm looking for. I used to confuse Ernie Hudson with Keith David when I was a child. Like, as an adult, I can see that they clearly don't look the same, but I don't know why I thought they were the same person when I was a kid. All right. Now, this one I do agree with. Sinners. Like, that's, of course, that's number one. Says here, music is a conduit in Sinners, making for an eclectic, lively first horror effort from Ryan Coogler. Opening text establishes the horror that won't arrive until much later, revealing that rarely a musician comes along with talent so great that their music can pierce the veil between the living and the dead. That it can be a beacon for evil. That's exactly what happens. Of course, but it's merely one component of Coogler's engrossing epic that's so ambitious in form and scale that it firmly holds you in its grip from the outset and never lets go. Sinners is the type of movie that will explore grief with heartbreaking emotion in one breath and feature a swirling Irish vampire jig in the next. It's this type of cross-pollination between prestige cinema and blockbuster-style entertainment that makes Coogler's latest feel innovative and daring. The style ensemble cast, lost my place. The style, ensemble cast, rich world building, and of course the music all make for one of the most epic features of the year. I agree. I have nothing more to add than, yes, it was one hell of a movie and you should watch it. Tony says, and regardless of what praise he bestows on Dangerous Animals, it really wasn't that deep at all. So with that, at this point, I would ordinarily put up my little ad. I don't know whether it will work, but we will see if it works. I'm going to add it to the stage and see if it plays. Let's zoom in. Yeah, it's kind of playing, but there's no music coming out for me. So hopefully it will play correctly while I try to set up everything else here. Let me see what time it is. Okay, so trying to time this the right way. And one more. There we go. All right, on to the next thing. Okay, I read that one. Okay, so our next story is, and let me change the banner to, no, I don't need to change this yet. Okay, I'll just stick it there. This is also coming courtesy of Bloody Disgusting. Okay. And this is written by Alex DiVincenzo. The title reads, Mr. Melvin Trailer, Toxic Avenger sequel, reconstruction premieres next week at Tromathon. And it says here, you may have seen the Toxic Avenger Part 2 and the Toxic Avenger Part 3 before, but never like this. The sequels were originally written and shot as one movie, but directors Lloyd Kaufman and Michael Hurst ended up with so much footage that they broke it up into 2 installments. 36 years later, the initial vision for the sequel has been reconstructed under its original title, Mr. Melvin. Watch the exclusive trailer below. The 127-minute movie will premiere as part of Tromathon 2025 at the Mahoning Drive-In Theater in Lehighton, Pennsylvania, on July 18th and 19th, followed by a screening at Popcorn Frights Film Festival in Fort Lauderdale, Florida on August 8th. I wish I could go to that. I didn't get to go to it last year either. Hopefully next year I won't be, coming down with a case of broke and I can go. The filmmakers gave Andrew L. Miller, Kaufman's assistant, and Adam Pelletier, star of Troma's upcoming film, The Power of Positive Murder, their blessings to edit the 2 sequels together from the recently unearthed original script. Toxie actor Ron Fazio provides new voiceover for Mr. Melvin. The film also features new openings and end credits by Chris Lanphier, who also handled the graphics in the trailer. Doc Hydra says, G-Fest, Godzilla Fest is happening right now, and I'm too poor to go. Yeah, a lot of these festivals and conventions are really cost prohibitive. Believe me. Let's see. After ridding Tromaville of evil, Melvin Junko, the Toxic Avenger, has nothing left to fight. Evil has been vanquished, his mop is clean, and his heart feels empty. Depressed and emotionally adrift, a psychiatrist with questionable motives encourages him to reconnect with his long-lost father in Japan. But this heartfelt journey is merely a charade, as Apocalypse Inc. lures Toxie overseas in order to blast him with anti-tromatons, corrupting his superhuman senses. Blinded to the forces of evil, Toxie returns home and becomes a corporate puppet for infernal forces bent on enslaving Tromaville and the world. Can the Toxic Avenger reclaim his soul and save Tromaville once again? Or is the hero of the people doomed to become the very monster he feared? Tony Man says, that's a guarantee for next year. Lady Shasha will go. Well, we'll see. Let's see here. Fazio stars alongside Phoebe Legier, John Altamura, Rick Collins, Lisa Gay, Rikia Yasuoka, Tsutomu Sakine, Shinoburio Mayako, Katsuragi. I'm going to try that one more time. Mayako Katsuragi, Jessica Dublin, and Michael J. Kaplan. I apologize for my pronunciation of the Japanese names. I am not fluent in Japanese, so I'm trying my best. Again, I apologize. Traumathon tickets are now on sale along with Mr. Melvin. The 2-night event includes screenings of Surf Nazis Must Die, Rise of the Super Traumettes, Rabid Grannies, Class of Nukem High, and Death by Temptation. This lineup is great. Macon Blair, who helmed the Toxic Avenger reboot, hitting theaters on August 29th, praised Mr. Melvin as a cinematic treasure, reformed from the mists of history as always intended. Trauma kids rejoice. And they do have some artwork here for Mr. Melvin. I'll come back to the trailer, but here is the poster for the event. As you can see, it says live meet Lloyd Kaufman with Toxie and Sarah. Friday, July 18th, Surf Nazis Must Die, Rise of the Super Traumettes World Drive-In premiere, Rabid Grannies, and then on Saturday, July 19th is Class of Nukem High, Mr. Melvin, The Toxic Avenger Part 2 and 3, and Death by Temptation 35th anniversary screening, which I didn't know was the 35th anniversary. Let me write that down. Hold on. Death by Temptation 35th anniversary. And that is July 19th. You know, a lot of information today. It says, plus Toxic Crusaders video game from Retroware, tattoos by Slink Skull, and live music and more. And that's going to be at 635 Seneca Road, Lehighton, Pennsylvania. Hopefully I'm saying that right. It could be Layton, Pennsylvania, but it looks like Lehighton, Pennsylvania. And you can get the tickets on mahoningdit.com. That's what it looks like. mahoningdit.com. Okay, and then we have a poster here, The Toxic Avengers Parts 2 and 3, Mr. Melvin, a cinematic treasure, says Macon Blair. Official selection of Popcorn Frights Film Festival. And the tagline says, fighting crime doesn't pay, selling out does. And I think the artist's signature is here, Dino 2025, which is cool. So let's go back up and check out the trailer. Let me know if there's any problems hearing. Tony said it is charade or charade. You could say it either way. You could say charade or charade, like potato, potato. Didn't Death by Temptation have the dude from A Different World in it? Yes, it did. It had Dwayne Wayne in it. All right, let's check out this trailer.
Melvin Jungle, come on up! Come to me when you're
Trauma Team production.
Come to me when you feel needed, babe. I won't leave you alone. Come to me when you need love, and I'll love you back to life.
Giving me a reason not to blow my fucking brains out, Lloyd Kaufman.
Come to me on a rainy night.
That's cinematic treasure. By the way, that's Michael Jai White right there. I hope you guys know that is Michael Jai White. He was in the Toxic Avenger too. It was great. You have to have a certain sense of humor to enjoy this. I have that type of sense of humor. Your mileage may vary. And it's cool that they shot parts of this in Japan.
Soon, it's the weekend. We'll do brunch.
Turn me on, turn me on, turn me on.
Head to talkingtrauma.com for more trauma history. Also available wherever you listen.
That was cool. Someone says, please tell me they're releasing this in theaters or online. I want to see this. It's, well, I just said that they're releasing it as I swear I just said that they're playing it at the see, my mind is blanking. It's on the screen. It was on the screen where they're playing it at. Somewhere. The Traumathon. The Mahoning, I guess it's Mahoning Drive-In in Pennsylvania. And then also there's a convention in Florida. Where is it? There it is. The Popcorn Frights Film Festival. That's what I was going to say. Popcorn Frights Film Festival in Florida is where it's playing. But I don't know whether it's going to be streaming. If it streams, my guess is it might go to, well, Trauma has its own streaming app. But aside from that, it might be on Shudder. That's what I would think who would bid for it first would probably be Shudder if my inclination is correct. Let's see here. Tom Baker says, like one big party. Tony Man says, at a festival, but are they releasing it in mass? That I don't know. I do not know. But like I said, Trauma has their own streaming app. So most likely it's going to go there first. And if it goes anywhere other than there, it'll probably be Shudder, would be my guess. The movie, Like a Party with Friends. Yes, it is. It's like a party with friends. I agree. And staying with the Toxic Avenger news, we have some more news here about a different Toxic Avenger. And this is no longer random horror news. This is also upcoming horror, so we'll change that. So in upcoming horror news, we have an article written by John Squires, and it says the Toxic Avenger is the first unrated horror movie to host its own San Diego Comic-Con Hall H panel. I don't know if you guys know about San Diego Comic-Con. It's like probably the biggest Comic-Con in America. We have a lot of Comic-Cons. We have a New York Comic-Con. We have MegaCon here in Orlando. But I believe the largest is in San Diego, California. So it says here, Deadpool and Wolverine. The famed Hall H at San Diego Comic-Con has become the go-to place for major studios to preview their upcoming big screen blockbusters, from new installments and billion-dollar franchises to Marvel's latest superhero offerings. Back in 2019, Deadline fittingly referred to San Diego Comic-Con as Con for Capes, calling Hall H, quote, the biggest stage at the annual event, as well as, quote, a mandatory stop for anybody in the business of sci-fi, fantasy, horror, or superhero fare. But many of the major studios, including Marvel and Warner Brothers / DC, are sitting out San Diego Comic-Con this year, leaving some big Hall H spots to be filled. And you better believe we're filling one of them. Cineverse and Bloody Disgusting are excited to announce today that director Macon Blair's The Toxic Avenger will be oozing into Hall H at San Diego Comic-Con this summer. The unforgettable and wildly unrated panel is taking place on Thursday, July 24th, 2025 from 5:30 p.m. to 6:30 p.m. at San Diego Comic-Con, marking the very first time that an unrated horror movie has ever hosted its own Hall H panel on the grand stage. Before it hits theaters on August 29th, 2025, Writer and director Macon Blair, who did I Don't Feel at Home in This World Anymore. Writer for Marvel Comics / Dark Horse Comics. Iconic Trauma co-founder Lloyd Kaufman, and an all-star cast including Peter Dinklage from Game of Thrones, Elijah Wood from the Lord of the Rings franchise, Jacob Tremblay from The Room and Wonder, and Taylor Page from Beverly Hills Cop, Axel F. and Zola will come together for a toxic takeover. Taking place in Hall H, the panel will feature exclusive clips from the film, limited edition swag for attendees, and behind-the-scenes chaos with the cast and creators. We hear there's another superhero movie coming out this summer, but this Avenger is the hero we really need now. Primetime Emmy-winning actor Peter Dinklage stars as Toxie. When janitor Winston Goose... Wait, they changed his name? I don't know if I like that. I kind of like the other name, but Melvin is Melvin is such a perfect name. When janitor Winston Goose is exposed to a catastrophic toxic event, he transforms into a new kind of hero, the Toxic Avenger. Well, you know what? Now that I think about it, because it's Peter Dinklage and he's kind of playing a different character, like it's still Toxic Avenger, but it's different. It's kind of like Winston Goose is like the Miles Morales to the Peter Parker. Because Peter Parker's Spider-Man, but so is Miles Morales. And that's the way I'm going to look at this. Winston Goose is Toxic Avenger, and so is Melvin. When janitor Winston Goose is exposed to a catastrophic toxic accident, he transforms into a new kind of hero, the Toxic Avenger. Now Toxie must rise from outcast to savior, taking on ruthless corporate overlords and corrupt forces who threaten his son, his friends, and his community. In a world where greed runs rampant, justice is best served radioactive. With 25 reviews so far, the Toxic Avenger is 92% fresh on Rotten Tomatoes. Tom Baker says, have a Toxic Avenger watch along. That would be fun. I would have to do it on my Patreon, though. Tony Man says, didn't we see a Trauma double feature at the Enzion, or was it 2 Trauma releases? Those were pretty dope. We did see it. It was not at the Enzion. It was at a theater in New Haven. I forget. Let me see. It wasn't. It might have been the Schubert. It might have been the Schubert Theater. Let me see. No, I don't think it was the Schubert. It wasn't Long Wharf. It might have closed. I don't see it there anymore. Let me put in. It may have closed. Yes, all that's coming up is Fairmount, and then Long Wharf, Holiday Cinemas, Madison, Pitkin. Yeah, the theater we went to, I do not see it. Like, I would know the name when I see it. I don't think it's there anymore. That's wild. But yeah, we saw it in New Haven. And I think I took you to see the Class of Nukem High. And I know I did. Well, I'm not sure. I might have showed you Surf Nazis Must Die, but I'm not sure. We also went to, in New York, we got to see Poltergeist Night of the Chicken Dead. Tom Baker says, must have been fun working on a movie like that. Yes, I would imagine it would be. Tom Baker says, and creating great memories. And Toneman says, did you ever hear of Shakespeare's Shitstorm? It's a horror comedy by Kaufman and Troma that came out in 2020. Yes, I have heard of it, but I have not seen it just yet. Oh, there is a trailer here. The uncensored, unrated trailer. Shall we check it out? And there's a poster here. I'll show you the poster. The hero we need now. You can see he's got his mop there. One thing I didn't like about the eye is that it's red. I feel like the eye should have been this color green. I think it would have looked cooler, just to me. But But I definitely, I think this is going to be a fun movie. All right, let's check out the uncensored trailer, which is basically the Red Band trailer.
Extremists have taken hostages downtown. Somebody do something!
This is a quite long trailer. I see 2 minutes and 43 seconds. You know how I am about long trailers? I feel like they show too much. So what I'm going to do is just play the first 30 seconds of this trailer, and then we'll go from there. Maybe I'll make it to 40 seconds, but 2 minutes and 43 seconds, you're going to show too much of the movie.
Wait! Stop! We'll get to all of that. Just relax, okay? We'd lost Shelley a year ago. These days, it's just me and the kid.
That actually just kind of made me hungry and realized I didn't eat dinner, and I'm hungry. I did eat something around 4 o'clock, so it's not like I went that long without food, but yeah, that made me hungry.
Looks great.
I'll just scrape off the black part. That part's pretty good.
Now give him back.
I don't want to hurt him.
Oh no.
Why didn't you do anything?
Sometimes it's better to do nothing.
It's,
How old is Jacob Tremblay, and is he ever going to grow? Because I swear he's been a child for like 20 years now. I'm sorry, he's probably like 14 now. He probably was like 5 when I seen him in a movie, and now he's like 14. I don't know, but this feels like he should be older. Maybe it's just me. Eric is in the house. How are you, Eric? He says, "This is stressing me out, Julie."
it's going good.
You're saying that this corporation...
Actually, I went past the 30-second mark, and it doesn't seem like it's showing too much. Let's do a minute and a half then.
would knowingly poison its own customers just to boost their own profit margins?
Summon the nuts.
Okay, summoning the nuts.
I didn't want any of this. I'm a monster.
You're not a monster. Show him your good heart.
Hey, buddy, I'm your dad. What the? I wasn't even involved. But sometimes you gotta do something.
All right. Okay, that's it. I'm with it. I love to see limbs get ripped off, so I'm with it. All right, let's get into our next story. I don't know whether this would be redundant, but we will do it anyways, because I may have covered this with Sony Man on What We Watched Last Weekend podcast, but I will cover it again here, just in case, cover my bases. All right, open that up and see what we have to read here. This comes from comicbook.com, written by Michael Hain. The new Weapons trailer from Barbarian director is even freakier than the last trailer. I'm going to add the word trailer there. The new trailer for Weapons is more relatable than the last, and that only seems to raise more questions and instill more terror than before. The preview dropped on Monday, focusing more on the characters in Zach Krieger's sophomore outing as a writer-director than previous clips did. It introduces us to the small Florida community. Oh, it's in Florida? I did not know this was supposed to be Florida. Why are these people wearing all these clothes then? When I go outside, I don't see anybody with 3 layers of clothes on in Florida. Like, what? Okay, if you say so. Okay, where was I? The preview dropped on Monday, focusing more on the characters in Zach Krieger's sophomore outing as a director than previous clips did. It introduces us to the small Florida community where the mysterious disappearances of 17 school children precipitate violence, uncover corruption, and dangle more mysteries. It's hard to imagine topping the suspense of Krieger's last horror movie, Barbarian, but Weapons may have enough surprises in store to pull it off. Here we can also see the A-list cast in action. Warner Brothers and New Line Cinema have been teasing Weapons for about 2 months now, preparing us for the movie's release on August 8th. First, we got an eerie teaser with a bare-bones explanation of the premise, and last month, the first full-length trailer provided a more detailed explanation of the story itself. This week's new trailer grounds the whole thing by focusing on the outraged victims of this catastrophe and the toll it takes on their community. Let's see here. How did that jump? It jumped forward. The story apparently begins when 17 children from the same classroom all mysteriously get up at the same exact time one night, 2:17 a.m., and run out of their houses with their arms extended. Only one of their classmates does not go with them, and they can't be found the following day. Their parents, such as Archer Graff, played by Josh Brolin, are prepared to blame their teacher, Justine Gandy, played by Julia Garner, while Gandy seems to undertake an investigation of her own. The cast also includes Benedict Wong as the school principal, Alden Ehrenreich as a police officer on the case, and Austin Abrams as a local drug addict with a criminal past. Previous press releases have teased hints of corruption and abuse exposed within the community during this story. And if Barbarian is any indication, we should not rule out any possible twists. Krager is best known as a member of the comedy sketch group The Whitest Kids You Know, appearing in their TV series on Fuse and IFC. He also appeared in 3 sitcoms, Friends with Benefits, Guys with Kids, and Wrecked. His surprising and successful foray into horror with Barbarian not only made Weapons possible, but got him a job rebooting the Resident Evil film franchise. Eric says Northern Florida. Yeah, I could see that because I stayed in St. Augustine for a year and it did get kind of cold up there. In Orlando, we do have a period of cold, but it's like 2 weeks in February. Maybe 1 week in November, 2 weeks in February. That's about it. Doc Hydra says, wait, The Gate? That movie traumatized me as a kid. Gonna have to watch that, what I missed of the live from earlier. Oh yeah, definitely. The Gate is available on Tubi, by the way, if you want to rewatch it. So let's check out this second trailer for Weapons. What is the runtime on this trailer? 1 minute 56.
I just want to say how very sorry I am for...
She should be locked up until she tells us what happened.
The truth is that I want an answer just as bad as all of you.
We're talking about 17 kids in one classroom. I want to know what happened in that classroom. Why just her classroom? Why only her?
They're our children.
I love those kids.
This is a true story.
Now I'll say what I said on the What We Watched Last Weekend podcast again. I don't think people would quietly sit there and just question her, especially in the United States. People are crazy. I feel like some people would have ran up and tried to attack her. That might have happened. We're only seeing a portion of the scene, so I wouldn't be surprised if the scene didn't end with someone physically trying to attack her for on behalf of their missing child. Because I mean, people get really emotional when it comes to their children. So yeah. Fomicky Latte says she should have left town. Eric said they'd eat her. Yeah, I just don't see them just quietly waiting for her to speak her piece. Yeah, I don't see that happening.
Story that happened right here in my town. A lot of people die in a lot of really weird ways in this story, but you're not going to find it in the news.
Those kids walked out of those homes. No one pulled them out. No one forced them. What do you see that I don't?
Show me. Where did you go?
There's something very, very wrong going on.
What am I looking at?
Leave the investigating to the investigators.
I've never seen anything like that in my life.
Rewatching. Rewatching. Rewatching.
Yeah, that's pretty wild. The way they did the trailer, you kind of can't see what's happening. So, like, you can see, you get glimpses, but you can't put the story together. So, I don't think that they're spoiling too much, hopefully. Eric says, Brolin is always solid. I agree. Toneman says, and like I said on the pod, I'd be like, I want to know MFer. All right, let's get to the next one. I'll have a couple more and then we'll get out of here because, like I said, I am hungry and I don't want to stay too much beyond 10 o'clock. So let's go into our next. Okay, this is also from Fangoria, written by Amber T. Headline reads, "Don't mess with the witchboard," warns new trailer for Chuck Russell remake. The supernatural horror hits theaters on August 15th. Chuck Russell from A Nightmare on Elm Street 3, Dream Warriors, and The Blob. This is the only reason why I'm kind of excited about this, because ordinarily a remake of Witchboard, I would think, I don't know about that. But since Chuck Russell is involved, I have a little bit more positive feeling about this. Chuck Russell returns to horror with a remake of Kevin S. Tierney's 1986 Witchboard, with today bringing a new trailer ahead of the Pic's August 15th release date. Starring in Witchboard is Stranger Things' Jamie Campbell Bower, as well as Madison Iceman, I Know What You Did Last Summer, Aaron Dominguez, Only Murders in the Building, Antonia Desplat from Shantaram, and Charlie Tahan from Ozark. Let me write down the release date for this. Witchboard. And it's coming out August 15th. All right. Let's see here. Russell directs the R-rated Witchboard from a script co-written with Greg McKay. The pair also produced alongside Kate Vu and Bernie J. Whistler in an A-Nation media production. Executive producers are Eric Scheermeyer, Sarah Buxton, John Paul Isham, and Walter Jostin. In Witchboard, Emily, her fiance Christian, and a group of their friends open an organic cafe, refurbishing an old carriage house in New Orleans' French Quarter. But a darkness descends over Emily when she discovers an ancient pendulum board once used to summon spirits. Christian seeks help for Emily from occult expert Alexander Baptiste, but Baptiste has secrets of his own, knowing the fateful bloodlines that binds them all to the Witchboard. A modern coven of white witches, a masked ball at Baptiste's mansion, and the legacy of Nagasoth, the queen of witches, are all a part of a dangerous game that puts Emily's very soul at risk. In previous interviews with Bloody Disgusting, Russell further teased that fans can expect from Witchboard, and what fans can expect from Witchboard and his return to the genre. Quote, "I put everything I had into this film. I hope that fans of my work will recognize my touch, but we have dreams. We have deadly hallucinations. We have body swaps. We have literal time travel. It's fun in that regard, but number one is to scare the hell out of people, and I think we've done that too." And then it says, check out the new trailer and poster for Witchboard below. Eric says, arguably Tawny Kitane's finest role in the 80s. Yes. Sidewinder says, what made Witchboard charming was the low-budget practical effects. Hopefully the remake won't CGI the hell out of the proceedings. I agree wholeheartedly. I agree. Okay, so let's check out where's the post. This is the poster for it. Not super impressive. Like, it's just a very run-of-the-mill poster. Doesn't we're getting that a lot lately. It almost, you know what this poster feels like? They had AI make them a poster. Like, it's just not very engaging. And here's the trailer.
Clear your mind and focus on the pendulum. There are powerful forces at play. We must journey back. Back to she who carved this board. To stir its dark magic.
Okay, that's cool.
It's a pendulum board. It was used for contact spirits. This could easily be over 100 years old.
You think it's worth anything?
I thought this takes place in New Orleans. Okay.
Tell me about the board.
Just feels like bad juju to me.
You know so little, yet here you are.
Why are all these British people in New Orleans? Did I not just read it? Let me go back up. I could swear I just read that it says it took place. Yeah, Emily and her fiance Christian and a group of their friends opened an organic cafe refurbishing an old carriage house in New Orleans, French Quarter. So where are the people of New Orleans? This is weird.
And I know so much.
Christian?
Where's Emily?
There is such a thing as destiny, and hers is not with you.
Okay, I like gore. There's fun and
If
gore.
you liked that, then you'll love this.
Yeah. Okay, here's my immediate issue with that. Yeah. New Orleans, Louisiana is 55.22% black. Where are all the black people? I'm just trying to figure that out. The city is over 50% black. Used to be more. Pre-Katrina, it was probably like 70-80% black, but after Katrina, it's 55% black. Where are the black people? Where are even the white people that sound like people from New Orleans? Like, it's okay. It's very weird to make a movie in a place and not include the people who live in that place. Eric says that is a woefully generic poster. Fominky Latte says looks like a roulette wheel on a poster. It does. And Tom Baker says seems like a money grabbing remake. Yeah, I mean, even though I like Nightmare on Elm Street 3, I like The Blob. Those are great movies. They probably went to him because he did. The Blob is a remake. The 1986 Blob is a remake from the 1986. Sorry, Blob is a remake from the 1950s Blob. So they probably thought, oh well, he's done remakes before, so maybe he can do a remake again. But why set this in New Orleans and not have the people of New Orleans in it? Like, if you wanted to make it like this super white, set it in Salem, Massachusetts. Which I wonder. No, let me look up the percentage there. Salem, Massachusetts. Yeah, that makes more sense. And Salem, Massachusetts only has a population of 5.4% black people. So that makes it 94.6% white. Set it in Salem. That's what you should have done. I would still expect some Massachusetts accents though. But why put it in New Orleans? Don't play in our faces. I don't like that. Mickey Latte says, I'm trying to remember if there's actually any carriage house in New Orleans. I'm not sure. I know the house that my grandmother grew up in was she referred to it as a pirate house. It was a house where the pirates would play cards, is the house that she grew up in. The pirates weren't there, obviously, when she was there. Before she was born, before, it was originally, I guess, a pirate's house. I don't know whether there's carriage houses. I'd have to Google that too. But yeah. Eric says shot in Montreal and New Orleans. So maybe the parts of the story that we're seeing where the people, but even still, people sounded British and not Montreal French. There is a such thing as Canadian French people in Montreal and Quebec. Like, those people exist. Why are we not seeing them? I'm seeing a bunch of British people. But yeah, that would be a cool story because a lot of Cajun people, they're French Canadians that came down to Louisiana. So that would be cool if they incorporate that into the story. It could be that this trailer is misleading. Sometimes a trailer will show you 90% of what happens in the first 10 minutes of the movie. So it could be that, it could be even the arms grabbing her could just be a dream sequence, So I will reserve judgment until I see the movie, but it would have been cool to put a little bit of more New Orleans in the trailer. That's all I'm saying. Eric said they also had to work around the SAG strike. This is true, but there's always new actors you can find. But I just feel like it would be like making a movie in the Bronx and having not a single Puerto Rican. Like, that does it make sense? We have in the United States, we have, you know what? Perfect. It would be like making a movie in Miami and have no Cubans. Like, what? Making a movie in South Central LA and there's no Mexicans. What? This is America. We have different groups of people. Eric says it might be set in New Orleans, but mostly Lynns in Canada. Yes, that happens a lot, especially with New York. Most of the movies that we have in the US that are in New York are really shot in Vancouver, because Vancouver looks a lot like New York. Tom Baker says, yes, look at the Live and Let Die. They used many locals from New Orleans. Eric Shasha said Rumble in the Bronx, mostly shot in Vancouver. Yep, perfect example. All right, let's stop screen and let's finish up two more, because I'm not going too far over time. I'm good on time. The reason why I'm being more of a stickler for time than I usually am is because by the end of last month, I couldn't use StreamYard because it only allows you to do 20 hours per month. So I'm trying to not go over the 20. Well, it's 20 hours for the free version. For the paid version, I think you can do a lot more, but I'm using the free version, so I can only stream 20 hours per month. So in order for me to spread it out throughout the month without hitting that wall again, I'm kind of trying to be more conscious of my time frame and not making the shows around 2 hours each and not going beyond the 2 hours. All right, so what's our next thing here? Let me open this up. Under new releases. No, under upcoming horror. Still under upcoming horror. I did Witchboard and now we're doing Mummy. Open. Here we go. Also from Fangoria, written by Amber T. Lee Cronin's The Mummy has wrapped filming. Jack Rayner and Leia Costa star in the classic monster movie. Lee Cronin has confirmed that filming has officially wrapped on The Mummy, the Evil Dead Rise director's upcoming take on the classic monster horror. Set to hit theaters on April 17, 2026, The Mummy comes as part of Cronin's deal with New Line Cinema, with horror giants Blumhouse and James Wan's Atomic Monster producing. Midsommar's Jack Rayner leads the cast with Leah Costa from Devils, Veronica Falcone from The Forever Purge and Imaginary, and May Kalamaui from Moon Knight, as well as May Eldgati from Grand Hotel, also starring. Plot details for The Mummy are still firmly under wraps, but back in December, Cronin teased a little of what we can expect from his upcoming take on the classic Universal monster movie. Quote, "This will be unlike any mummy movie you have ever laid eyeballs on before." That's a lot of big talk. That is some big talk. Again, this will be unlike any mummy movie you have ever laid eyeballs on before. I'm digging deep into the earth to raise something very ancient and very frightening. Cronin's Instagram post, see below, gives us a glimpse of the set of The Mummy, complete with a wall of hieroglyphics. Yeah, if you look in the background of this picture, let me see if it's clearer on the Instagram post. No, it's about the same on Instagram post, but you can see the hieroglyphics in the background. Let me see what you guys are seeing. Doc Kai just said the paid plans of stream are expensive. They are. There's one that's $80 a month. Like, no, no. Tom Baker says, you and Tony Man both have, but you and Tony Man both from New York? No, we're from Connecticut, which is north of New York. We're close to New York, but not from New York. I didn't mind Tom Cruise's Mummy movie. You are the only one. The only part of that movie I liked was the swimming mummies. I thought they were cool. Yes, I was born in Massachusetts, but raised in Connecticut, which is just north of New York. Let's see. Cronin's Evil Dead Rise was a huge hit back in 2023, nabbing almost $150 million at the global box office and kickstarting a new chapter in the Evil Dead franchise, which sees creator Sam Raimi handpicking directors to helm standalone entries in the series. Look out for more on The Mummy as we get it. So that's the news we have about The Mummy. What do you guys think? Have you seen the previous Mummy incarnations that they've made? Do you feel hopeful for the next Mummy? I don't know. Have you seen the original Mummy? How did you feel about the original Mummy? And on to our last story of the evening. This is a new release. Eric says, I'm in. There we go. I don't know if you guys can hear a cat in the background. She wants me to come and play, and I cannot play right now. Plus, it's 10 o'clock at night. Okay, so this is from Bloody Disgusting, written by Megan Navarro. The Waves of Madness, the world's first side-scrolling horror film, is now available on digital. Now, I had not heard of this movie, so this is a new one for me. Eric says, I love mummy films, especially Hammers. I have not seen any of the Hammer House of Horror mummy films. I've only seen that first mummy film that's like in black and white. And that was when I was about 12 years old. I need to rewatch it with my adult mind. Tony Man says, don't like black and white mummy movies. They need to do the mummy with a hard R. Interesting. Okay, it says classic horror influences the retro gaming aesthetics classic horror influences and retro gaming aesthetics combine in The Waves of Madness, the first side-scrolling horror movie from multi-hyphenate actor, writer, and director Jason Trost. The FP series and All Heroes Must Die. The Waves of Madness is now available to rent or own on digital. It follows a special agent dispatched to investigate a distress call from a round-the-world cruise. Upon arrival, the agent finds the ship eerily abandoned and haunted by a malevolent force that distorts reality and warps sanity into terror. In other words, this side-scroller combines 1930s Lovecraftian horror with retro video game style. Trost stars alongside Ryan Gibson and Talle Wickham. Shot for just $20,000 in a single studio apartment with a crew of 3, The Waves of Madness is a testament to do-it-yourself indie filmmaking. Trost also completed the entire post-production himself in Final Cut Pro, using practical effects, in-camera trickery, and hand-built digital matte backgrounds to evoke a dreamlike side-on horror world. I don't know how they mean this. And I get the first part of the sentence. Trost also completed the entire post-production himself in Final Cut Pro. That should be a period. He used practical effects and in-camera trickery and hand-built digital matte backgrounds to evoke a dreamlike horror world. I don't know what this side-on part is. I'm omitting that word because that just made the sentence clunky. Quote, I wanted to make something that felt like it crawled out of another dimension, says Trost. This film is for anyone who's ever dreamt about making a movie with nothing but a crazy idea, a few good friends, and the will to see it through. The Waves of Madness is proof that you don't need a big budget to make something unforgettable. You just need vision. The side-scrolling horror movie was also released on Blu-ray on June 5th from Umbrella Entertainment, though it's currently sold out. The Waves of Madness made its world premiere at Nightmares Film Festival in October, where it won Best Thriller Feature and Best Cinematography at Nightmares 2024. Check out the trailer below and look for Waves of Madness on digital. So let's see about the trailer. Eric says, blood on the mummy's tomb, early 60s, early 70s. I'm going to write that one down too. Okay. Blood on a mummy's tomb. Blood on the mummy's tomb. Add that to my... Tonyman says, you really need to be a magazine or website editor. That's your calling. Yeah, I should be an editor. All right, that's a still from The Waves of Madness. Let's check out the trailer.
Agent LaGrasse, do you copy?
I copy.
We intercepted a distress call.
There's an SOS from the Elder of the Sea.
They said there is something on the ship.
Okay, already. Dude made this in his apartment and he just green screen the background. Like, that is the way this looks. I'm really, really impressed. Oh, that's right. You did say that before. Tom Baker, you said I need to be a movie producer. Producers have to have money. I don't have that, unfortunately. Tom Baker, like Gail Ann Hurd. Yes, I looked her up, by the way. I'm not kidding. But how do I get the capital to become a movie producer? I have to look into that, though. Maybe there's a way. But yeah, like I was saying, I just read that this person made this film in their apartment and did the matte backgrounds themselves in After Effects. I think this is really impressive looking.
Ship appears to be deserted.
This is the rescue party? Is it just you?
There's an SOS from the Elder of the Sea. If you get this message, don't send help. It's just me. Don't send help.
Going to be a long night.
Don't send help. There's an SOS from the Elder of the Sea. You won't accept the truth. Send help. Send help. Send help. Send help. Send help. Send help.
You're still there on that ship, aren't you? With those things.
Up or down?
Since when do monsters go up?
Don't send help.
I think that looks pretty good. I mean, considering what he had to do. The title, where's the title card? There it is. Waves of Madness. Doc says, some cheap movies are really good. Ever seen Live Screamers? Yes, I have seen Live Screamers. There's also a sequel. Well, actually, it's Live Scream, and then the sequel is Live Screamers. So good. You don't need to see Live Scream to see and enjoy Live Screamers, which is far. See, oh, well, so I misspoke. I have seen Live Scream. I have not seen Live Screamers. I will watch Live Screamers because that's on my watch list already. Thanks to Tony Man. Tony Man is our official found footage expert. And a lot of people are waiting for him to drop his first review on, because he on his channel, he told me he was going to do found footage Fridays. So hopefully we will get that soon. Tony Man says, Doc, I told her about that when we watched the first one. Yep. And with that, I will have to say goodnight and get out of here. Like I said before, I don't think I have a ending bumper because it's just not playing. I could try to bring it up again, see if it works. Yeah, it says, here's my outro. When I open it, it's just a blank purple. And it's not playing on StreamYard, and that kind of stinks. So no outro. I'll just have to say good night, and I'm going to get something to eat and rest. And tomorrow, hopefully I'll be able to finish season 2 of Squid Game, and Tony Man and I can talk about Squid Game on what we watched last weekend. So with that, I will say goodnight. Thank you all for coming through. Really appreciate you. Have great conversations. Y'all take it easy and have a good night.